history of petty Crocker. CW. Abuse, alluding to self-harm. I cut my stepmom out of my life at 20, and allowed communication to begin again 2 years ago for the sake of my dad. Simply put, at 18 she threw me out of the house and taunted me for being unable to begin college on time and still being employed at a fast food restaurant. At 18, I was homeless with a spineless father and a mother who was institutionalized for being a danger to herself and others. At 18, petty Crocker had permanently damaged my relationship with my paternal family, and I had no idea who my maternal family was. They didn't even know my mother had given birth. I was a pariah, my crime was continuing to live in her home and sight, and my sentence was hell. Petty and my dad got together when I was 4, married when I was almost 6. I've seen some old pictures and have a few hazy memories, and she had been kind once upon a time. She brought me new toys, watched The Little Mermaid on repeat, got me a flower girl dress that matched her wedding dress, and she was the one who taught me how to do my chores. Dad was a long-haul trucker, still is, and he trusted this woman with my life. She became my main caretaker, holding my hand when I went to daycare and kissing me when school let out. Almost as soon as the ink on their marriage certificate was dry, things changed. My older sisters lived full-time with their mom due to Dad's schedule, and had always been looked after by either his mom or his sister. Suddenly, I only ever saw her family, and they made sure I was excluded. Step-cousins my age were given treats, gifts, hugs and taken on little trips, but I was always left behind, sometimes alone for upwards of 4 hours in the beginning, increasing as I aged. This began at 6. I was told Dad's family didn't have time to see me anymore, and they were told I didn't want to see them. My sisters eventually stopped visiting me, only coming over for a few days when Dad was home, and they never contacted me independently. Still I wanted, believed, needed her to love me. My mom was sick, that's all I understood, and my dad was gone. No one in the world wanted me near them, no one except her. So I clung to Petty like she was a lifeline and fought anyone who tried to separate us. To her credit, or detriment, she did take physical care of me, and I was taken to visit Mom when she was allowed visitors. She'd hold my hand and sit with me while my mom would talk, when she was well, or encourage me to be open when Mom was quiet. To this day I'm not sure why. If she took the chance to belittle or condescend to my mom, that would make sense. If she used it to try to sever the bond between us, that would make sense. But those visits, even as I got older, were usually the most pleasant experiences between us. I do wonder if she felt some fucked up sense of responsibility to Mom, if she felt she needed to allow her time with her child. But I never asked. Petty isolated me from the people around me, and she began to pick on me in front of her family. If I struggled with an assignment, she'd bring it and have relatives solve the problem, then call me a R-word like, my mother. If I wanted to play a sport, I had to be the best on the team or I'd be pulled because it was a waste of time. Anything artistic was discouraged, and she often found clever ways to discourage me from pursuing an emotional outlet, like music or painting. If I succeeded at a pursuit then it was due to her, and I was expected to celebrate her in some way. As a child, that was taking on extra chores or gifting her something, always taken from my birthday money Dad would send. And the money was another issue. He'd give her money to buy me gifts, but she'd just save it in an account for me. However, I wasn't allowed to touch it ever. I paid for anything I broke or mishandled, and had to buy gifts for her on her birthday, Mother's Day, Christmas, her anniversary and of course, any time I succeeded. Unless Dad physically handed me a gift, I didn't get one. He did eventually catch on and started gifting me actual physical presents, but that was a few years down the line, and if she liked the present, then I was told I should give it to her to keep the peace. I wasn't allowed pets, and the only time I asked, I had to get a fish. Remember the rule about not being allowed to touch any money? She bought the fish and set up, but when food ran low, I wasn't allowed to buy it more. I watched my goldfish die. I never asked for anything else, and to this day I'm afraid to get a pet again. Earning her love and approval became the center of my focus, until I was about 14 and began to realize how absolutely fucked up my relationship with her was. I developed an attitude, and was definitely hostile towards her family. My paternal family rarely saw me, and always seemed to know what I was up to or in trouble over, but never knew anything else about me. Hobbies, interests, grades, aspirations. It was like all anyone saw was a pimply fuck up. When she rewarded me, something that happened on a rare occasion, she was almost excessive. Clothes, jewelry, makeup. Shopping trips that would make most teens envious, but it wasn't quality time. It wasn't tailored to me, it was all stuff she liked, and it was always taken eventually. Dad enabled it, he believed the stories of his mean, lazy daughter who was always ungrateful. However, when checking my account they spent $20 on food for Veer without asking. The end came when I told them they had to replace the bedroom door their dog chewed the bottom out of, and refused to allow the pit bull mix they wanted to rescue even though it had a bite history to enter my home. They moved to my stepdaughter's mother's home at that point. During their time there my stepdaughter kept getting tickets in her car which is only registered to my husband. They weren't paying their insurance, which I had bought my stepdaughter her own policy and paid the startup out of my money when they lived with us, and didn't pay the plate renewal. Now her license is suspended, and it cost my husband and I $600 to get the plates, again in his name only, unsuspended. Plus they had damaged the car and it needed repairs. So he took it from them. Before her license was suspended but after the police took the plates from her car my husband let her use his truck which was on my insurance policy, Veer drove it, and he has no license, and blew the motor in it. It is now sitting and can't be used. I told my husband I would put the car on my insurance for him but only if he drove it. If he returned it to them I was canceling the insurance which I've stood by. Nevertheless, Veer called daily demanding my husband return the car to them once it was legal and fixed. After 3 weeks my husband finally said, "Look you dumbass, I don't know what it is that you think you're trying to accomplish here but you're not demanding anything from me and you're not getting the car back. I may have originally bought it for her before she got with you, but it is my car in my name and I'm keeping it in lieu of the truck you ruined. Don't call me again about the car. Got it? We had been hearing of ongoing disputes between my husband's ex and Veer. Things got so bad there that Veer told my husband's ex-wife to pack her shit and get the F out of her own home. Another time he told her to shut the F up and remember who she's talking to. So we all decided it was time to let our daughter hit rock bottom since she wasn't seeing how Veer had taken her from being a sweet, lovable, well-liked and responsible girl in a college nursing program to this person with a criminal history and no prospects at the moment. My husband's ex-wife moved in with her boyfriend, turning the power off at the home she had been renting, and told her former landlord, whom she was actually long-time friends with, she wouldn't allow it to affect their friendship if he evicted them for squatting since neither were on her lease to begin with. When my stepdaughter called wanting to come back, my husband told her she could but Veer could not. Now they are staying at a homeless shelter in the town where Veer's mom lives, and Veer's mom won't let them live with her either. We hate to see her go through this, but this entitled Veer she won't let go of has really brought her down and she can do so much better. This guy actually told us once he couldn't work at a factory that he interviewed at because it was climate controlled and his heart condition won't allow that, then argued with me and my husband that climate controlled meant controlled by the climate, so it was hot in summer and cold in winter. We haven't seen him hold a job or do anything useful and productive since they've been together, just demand from and use the people who love the girl he's become a Klingon to. Said she understood, but she felt it was unfair that I wasn't allowing her A+1 to my wedding when my dad and my stepdad were allowed to bring their spouses. I told her that the difference was that I knew their spouses. She wanted to know why I was so adamant about refusing to get to know her boyfriend. I explained to her that I saw no need since she'd just break up with them and move on to someone else eventually, as she has always done before. She started to cry and told me I was being unreasonable and treating her as if she's a whore. Both my fiancé and my sister feel like I should suck it up for one day and let her bring her boyfriend so she can be comfortable there. I'm seriously considering it, but I wanted to know if I'm TA here for sticking to my boundary at my wedding and what your thoughts are. Update: after reading everything here, I've decided to email my mother and invite him. I was already leaning towards telling her that he can come when I post it. I decided to set some ground rules for my mother. 1. He is there as A+1 to my mother only. I made it clear to her that he is not my family and he is not my stepfather, so I will appreciate her not telling other people at the wedding he is my stepfather. Mark is my stepfather and he will be there. 2. He is not to be in any family photos. In fairness, my stepdad Mark won't be in any family photos either, only my mom, dad, stepmom, and my siblings. 3. He is not to approach me at any point during the wedding and reception. 4. This does not change my previous boundaries. I'm only allowing him to come for her own comfort and to create a sense of fairness. I respect the fact she is in a relationship, but that her love life has nothing to do with me and I wish to keep it that way. 5. I told my mother that these are my terms for him being at my wedding and my terms are final and that I hope she can respect the fact that I'm trying to be reasonable. I used this opportunity to remind her the reasons I put the boundary up in the first place. These reasons included forcing me to do activities with her shorter-term boyfriends in the past, forcing me to only discuss her love life while showing no interest in my life, and putting her relationships above her own children. If she responds, I'll let everyone know. Update 2. My mom called me within 10 minutes of getting the email. She thanked me for allowing him to come and said they would abide by my terms. She said she felt really hurt that during her actions during her midlife crisis are why I'm refusing to meet her current boyfriend, who she says she's been with for 7.5 years, and that she thought things would eventually calm down enough where I would be comfortable meeting him. She said she now realizes that it will never happen. I told her that I'm firm on my stance. I think she started to cry, but she said she understood and only wants him there because being around my dad and stepdad and their new wives, my dad has been married for 23 years and my stepdad for 12, makes her anxious and he helps keep her calm. She said she respects my stance and said it's her own fault I feel this way. I felt this may be the start of a guilt trip, so I politely ended the call. A few days ago, I invited most of my colleagues to a big event I'm having in a few weeks. I never confronted that colleague and have just been keeping my distance for the sake of professionalism and definitely did not invite her. The day after I sent the invitations out, which was a flyer through direct message, the colleague approached me and asked me why didn't I send her an invitation. Guess she heard about it from others. I was honest and told her it was because she falsely reported me and almost got me fired. She said she was just trying to do what was right and I can't blame her because the risk that I was high and operating on patients is too great. I said I understand where you're coming from, but instead of asking me about it you went directly to our superior and almost cost me my career, which you haven't apologized for. She said she wasn't going to apologize for doing the right thing. Then I said I had to check on a patient and walked away. I get she was trying to do the right thing, but she ended up doing it to the wrong person and thinks she's in the right. Well, I disagree and don't want her at my event now, but I do feel kind of bad for excluding her and am curious too if she is right and if I'm just being stubborn. So Ida for excluding my worker for after she reported me and almost got me fired? Edit: to those saying it didn't affect me, I had to miss a day of work because I couldn't go back until the results came. So that is hours I will have to make up and I'm already taking time off for future maternity leave. Is it a work or personal event? If personal, why are you inviting colleagues to a personal event? It's a personal event. Baby shower to be exact. I'm only in the second trimester, but I'm having it earlier for irrelevant reasons. I'm inviting colleagues because another colleague invited most people they worked with to their wedding last year and I felt it was polite to do the same. I've only invited people I actually work or interact with often. She is someone I interact with somewhat often, so I think that's why she feels it's not fair she's getting excluded. Edit 2, that's not funny. Some of y'all have no humor. I guess my humor is more dark, so I can see how some plain people wouldn't find it funny. Edit 3, for those asking how I found out, my friend/colleague, the one who was joking with me, was talking to her about something the day I had to miss while waiting for the results. And she asked if I was coming in that day because I was on the schedule before and he said that I couldn't come in today. And I guess she took that as I fired and said, oh good, she needs help. Then I guess she admitted she was the one who reported and he explained the context of the situation, then said she was like, oh okay, edit 4. Are you intentionally not inviting her because she reported you? I guess yes, because she was on my initial list of people to send the invites to. But I no longer feel comfortable having someone that reported me around me on a personal aspect and do not need that at my baby shower.